Hey guys, Aaron Wilson at NRG Stadium. And first off, we'll start with the trade and why the Texans moved on from veteran left tackle Cam Robinson. So for the Cleveland Browns, it's obvious. DeJuan Jones out for the season, need an experienced left tackle. Texans have one. They initiate the call, it gets done. Texans don't get back a lot. They get a 2027 6th-round draft pick, and they have to give the Browns a 7th-round draft pick. Now, they'd already paid him most of his money. What's left is the remainder of his $2 million base salary, and so this is a deal that was worth up to $14.5 million. Texans had a $12 million base value for the contract. And ultimately what happened is, in terms of the net value of the trade, the Texans sign a player in free agency, not knowing what they'll get in the draft, knowing that no more Laramie Tunsil after trading their 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle to the Commanders. And ultimately, Cam Robinson, just not a long-term replacement. I mean, he was a 1-year rental, and then he becomes not even a 1-year rental. They install and are pleased with the progress of Ariante Ursary, the rookie 2nd-round draft pick, former Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year from Minnesota Golden Gophers. So what you have here is you have confidence in Ursary, all in with Ursary, and you have Robinson, who could only play left tackle, couldn't play right tackle, couldn't play guard. So next move up, I believe, is they'll get Trent Brown onto the active roster at some point. And, of course, they still need depth at the cornerback and secondary positions, so they've got some leeway there with the roster. So the Texans net the 6th-round pick. They give up the 7th-round pick and Robinson, and D'Amico Ryans explained the trade, saying they traded to the Browns to give him an opportunity to play, that he wants to play, he wants the opportunity, so they wanted to do that. They wish him well, wish him nothing but the best, that he's handled himself the right way. That's great, but ultimately, in terms of a tangible playing element, it's not there. They didn't need Cam, so they move on from him. I think that's good in the sense that you don't need the tackle, but it's bad in the sense of you made an investment, you spent money, and it's much like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, except no attitude issues. And this was a player that started the one game because of the injury to Ed Ingram and the line shuffle that was ultimately unsuccessful, where he plays left tackle, and Ariante Ursary looked very uncomfortable at right tackle. It's not his natural position. So that's what went down with the trade. So he had the leg injury. That opened the window at the Greenbrier for him to be out of the lineup. And during that time, that's why they went with the rookie, Ariante Ursary, which was the plan all along, was to get Ursary out there. But they did it even sooner. So, yeah, sorry for some of the background noise here. They're working on a couple things here. That doesn't have anything to do with football, though. Just stuff with the building here at NRG. So a couple other updates for you. Joe Mixon is not being activated this week. I repeat, not being activated. We don't know when he'll be activated, if at all. I'm told he is out indefinitely. It is a tough and complicated rehab after some procedures, non-surgical, that he had away from the building in this offseason. If they wanted to, they could have voided his pay. They have not done that. They're still paying Joe Mixon. And so, yeah, nothing happening as far as a Joe Mixon return at this point. So, yes, for everyone that thought, oh, well, that means he's only missing 4 weeks, they don't really understand the rules. 4 weeks was the soonest that he could have been out. So, as soon as he could return. But that's not the return date. So, the two different things, the return eligibility and the actual return date. So eligibility, yes. Returning, no. Two that are returning, though, and that are ready to practice, Jaylen Reed, who sprained his knee during the preseason and missed the first 4 games. He's had a good rehab from that mild knee sprain. And Denico Autry, who also had a knee injury from last season. So Autry had 3 sacks, 13 tackles, and was good in the playoffs, but has had a ton of downtime, and now they're going to get him back in the mix. With Reed, I think he could help them at safety if they feel like there's any inadequacy with MJ Stewart or they just want to go with a younger player. He could give them some flexibility. Jimmy Ward is not being activated this time. So that's some of the things that are going on with the injury front for the Texans. And they made it out of the game relatively unscathed. So no real aggravation of the oblique injury that you've seen Derek Stingley Jr. play through and commendably play through with the interception. So those were all good things that went on. As you guys probably saw, and I'll pull up the snap counts here from the Texans' shutout victory over the Titans. So Juice Scruggs, yes, he rotated, but he wound up playing 80% of the snaps. And you had Laken Tomlinson play 20% of the snaps. So essentially, he's the primary left guard. He didn't start the game, but he finished it. So a lot of Juice Scruggs. And we'll see, does he become the starter? They've been non-committal about that. That's the usual. They won't tell you anything. That's how it is. So it's after the fact, or it's already well known. But, that's life in the NFL. So what you have here with the guard position, a rotation doesn't make a ton of sense. I think that at some point you have to pick one of them. And it sounds like eventually they'll pick Scruggs. We'll just see how they choose to go about it. You did have an improved pass block grade for Laken Tomlinson in the 14 snaps he played, 79.7. But for Juice Scruggs, not that far behind, 66.2. Very high pass block grade for Woody Marks, which bodes well for him to basically be the RB1, even if they don't officially say it, after his breakout game. 83.5 pass block grade. And then Titus Howard did pretty well, 68.2 pass block. Ed Ingram is the highest graded blocker, 88.9, with a 90.6 run block grade. How they don't attribute him for a sack on the play by Jeffrey Simmons, don't really understand that, but they give him 2 hits, 2 hurries, 4 pressures. So they're saying he didn't grade out very well as a pass blocker, 44.5 pass block grade. And these grades are not the end-all be-all, but they are grades nonetheless, and there's some metric that people can look at. With Arion Jersey, 56.1, they're saying he gave up a sack and a hurry. I believe it was Arden Key that he gave up the pressures to. So overall, looking at that and kind of where they go forward, just in terms of the play time, let's look also at the other side of the football on defense. And I thought that was a good move to give A.J. Speed additional playing time. He played 56% of the defensive snaps, and Henry To'oTo'o played 48%, although Henry is the starter. So again, a case of the backup playing more than the starter. The playing time is more important than them calling your name. I mean, at least for most people, it would be. So still some defensive special team snaps for E.J. Speed, 6 of them, and a little bit for M.J. Stewart, 6. So even though you're a starter or playing a lot on defense, it doesn't necessarily get you off the special teams. But this reduced E.J. Speed's special teams role, and so they get him out there. And still not many defensive snaps for linebacker Christian Harris. Plays 4 defensive snaps, 7 on special teams. So interesting to see that. And 3 defensive snaps for Jake Hansen. I think Tim Settle Jr. and Sheldon Rankins are playing at a pretty high level. D-tackle, like what I'm seeing from them. And, in talking with some of the guys today, including Juice Scruggs and Xavier Hutchinson and Dalton Schultz, the sting of last year's Christmas game, the 31-2 debacle, that stuck with these guys. I think you'll hear about it all week. The embarrassment of that game and a little motivational fuel. And they've, gotten kicked around in Baltimore over the years whenever they've headed up to Baltimore, including that playoff game. So a lot of these guys, they were a part of that game, and they are, tired of losing to the Ravens. The Ravens, of course, are off to a rough start, and their injury situation is horrid. We don't know yet if Lamar Jackson is playing. Doesn't look real good for, say, Roquan Smith. And their second-year corner gets injured. And then they're just dealing with a ton of injuries on defense. Matabuke is on injured reserve, so he will not be playing in this game. And it's just overall for the Ravens a kind of bleak injury front. The Texans, much healthier, but they're both 1-3, and we'll see. The Texans just have had problems with Derrick Henry in many years. They haven't had a lot of success against him, including, the D'Amico Ryans era. There have been some times where they played well against him, but including win up in Nashville 2 years ago. But overall, it's just not, been what you hope for against the Ravens, and there's good reason. So we'll see. They did beat Cooper Rush last year when he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Do I think that they can beat Cooper Rush? Yeah, if they can contain Derrick Henry, then they would have a chance, a good chance possibly, to win the game. And if C.J. Stroud and those guys can replicate the third quarter, that's kind of the blueprint. Fourth quarter, when they have the 3 touchdowns on 3 series in a row. Their previous 38 series for the season, only 3 touchdowns. So they equal that output in the fourth quarter on those 3 drives. And that's really the kind of football they need to play. Need to get the ball out of their quarterback's hands, need to make checks. That's more of a freewheeling, good offense and more fun to watch, which is, cannot discount that. Fantasy football, Woody Marks is a popular pickup. I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense to want to get him out there. And so, yeah, I think on drafts, some redrafts, they will have a lot of inclusion of a Woody Marks. So a lot going on with all those things. And it's really not about fantasy football. It's about real football. But for the Texans, yeah, they are having some fantasy impact. I know a lot of people that still, excuse me, my fantasy football impact is don't draft me right now. I'm still not 100%. I'm getting better, but just had kind of a chest cold that stuck with me now for the greater part of about 5 days. But making progress and looking forward to getting back to full health. Hopefully I feel great by the weekend as I head back to Baltimore, where I covered the Ravens for 15 years, working for the Baltimore Sun and other publications, and covering a Super Bowl squad with Joe Flacco and Dennis Pitta, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, John Harbaugh, seeing some great football. The 2012 Harbaugh Bowl between the 49ers and the Ravens. So we'll see what kind of football game we have. Not my first time covering the Ravens and Texans. Covered a lot of Ravens-Texans games. A couple more things I'd like to go over about Sunday's football game before we completely turn the page toward the Ravens. And, it's kind of a victory that you can look at a couple of ways. Yes, they let the Titans hang around. It was 6-0. Shouldn't have been that close for a while. There were some missed field goals by the Titans. And you could make the argument that if the Texans, don't have the strong fourth quarter, and if the Titans make some field goals, maybe it's another type of game and they lose and drop to 0-4. But that's not what happened. The Texans did take control and ultimately turn into a rout. A shutout, their first since 2010, also against the Titans. And so they're to be commended for that. Look at Cam Ward's stat line. The kid went 10 for 26 for 108 yards, had an interception, 35.4 passer rating. They sacked him a couple of times. He's very elusive, very fast, and the Texans, with Danielle Hunter, they sack him twice. Danielle Hunter, what else can you say? 4 sacks already, 3 sacks for Will Anderson Jr. What a tandem. 7 sacks combined through 4 games. That is what you hope for with a pass rush tandem. I thought C.J. Stroud did a great job of managing the game and making some key throws, especially his sideline throw to Nico Collins against L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius who? And the real dart and the adjustment and the good throw that he made to Jaden Higgins for Jaden's first touchdown. And he was wheeling back there. I think that this is a confidence boost for C.J. Stroud, and this is what you'd hope to see from QB1. Dalton Schultz gets into the act with 5 catches, kind of a move the chains guy with 30 yards, but 6 on targets. Nico Collins 4 for 79 on 6 targets. You see the involvement of Woody Marks as an all-purpose back with 119 all-purpose yards, 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown on just 5 targets. Not a lot yet for Christian Kirk. 3 catches, 20 yards on 4 targets. And when they need Xavier Hutchinson, yeah, he always comes through. He's a very steady player. Punting went up a little bit, including a 64-yarder from Tommy Townsend. No big plays in the return game, but it sounds like They found their returner with Jalen Noel. I think they keep Braxton Berrios around as insurance, but they don't really need him right now. Texans get 20 first downs, 353 yards of total offense, hold the Titans to 175 yards. All of those are good things. And Texans, most importantly, go 2 for 2 in the red zone. Time of possession, this is a big one. This is winning football. 38 minutes and 21 seconds for the Texans, just 21 minutes and 39 seconds for the Titans. So not great for the Titans, but Texans, doing some good things, taking care of business. 5 tackles, Kamari Lassiter. That was the most on the team. Daniil Hunter with 4 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for losses, 2 sacks. Jalen Petrie with 4 tackles, 2 tackles for losses. They used him some as a blitzer. EJ Speed with the increased playing time, a quarterback hit and 4 tackles. Henry Toto keeps pace with 4 tackles. Aziz Al-Shaair with a quarterback hit and 3 tackles, including a very hard hit on Cam Ward. And then, of course, Derek Stingley has the interception. MJ Stewart on it with a pass deflection. Tommy Togiai pass deflection and a tackle for loss. Just some really good football by Togiai. Kind of flies under the radar, but he's a good player. Reason why they gave him that 1-year, $3.3 million extension. So all good things with Togiai. And, kind of looking over more of the defensive snaps. I mean, pretty much what you've got here. You got an Iron Man situation except for left guard with the offensive line. Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz play 86% and 85% of the snaps, respectively. And then Xavier Hutchinson plays a lot of snaps, played 68%. Christian Kirk, 61%, so he plays more than Kirk. And then Woody Marks, 56%. Jaden Higgins, only 44%, but he made the most of the time. He had Jalen Noel, same thing, with 24%, but makes the most of it. And then on defense, I think Kalen Bullock looked like a different player without C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Don't think he loved playing with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Not a lot of safeties would, with the way he was conducting business or not conducting business. And then, mostly like a real set lineup. A lot of snaps for the Will Anderson Jr.'s and the Hunters and Sheldon Rankins. And, of course, Derek Stingley Jr., MJ Stewart. And then it's mostly limited substitution with the Tommy Togiais and the Mario Edwards Jr.'s. 18 snaps for Mario, 16 for Tommy. So Texans take care of some business. And now it's Ravens week. We have to see, as they go forward, how ready are they to play a good team. They played some good teams close, like the Rams and the Buccaneers. But can they beat Baltimore? That's something they haven't done in a very, very long time. And we'll see, can they take care of business? We'll get more and more into that as the week goes on. I hope to get healthy. The Ravens and the Texans hope to be healthy. And looking forward to bringing it for you guys and giving you a lot of coverage. Of course, for here at YouTube, at Aaron Wilson Sport. Please watch, like, and subscribe. And I think we're going to get a web chat this week. It's going to pick out a day and a time. And then, of course, on Twitter X at Aaron Wilson _NFL. Instagram, Aaron Wilson 7128. On television at KPRC2. And at www.click2houston.com. And Instagram, I mentioned them already, Aaron Wilson 7128. Guys, thanks so much. Talk soon. And look forward to our next conversation.